we supposed to get people here if they don't know about this secret that doctors won't tell you, only if you click these next three links?
This one weird trick.
Dude, I'm totally gonna use that as a short.
Yes, bro.
That's fucking awesome. Hey y'all, we're here with Howling Giant. If you don't know them, check them out. They are fucking phenomenal. I'm gonna say, um, I'm not super smart, right? I know it's a weird way to
None
start.
of us are.
I'm gonna say we're in good company then, man.
Yeah.
We're starting on the same playing field. That's good.
I caught you guys at Legalized Lex and was absolutely blown away with your set.
Thank you.
Like, I had listened to you before and was like, yeah, like it's all right. But then I saw you live and I was like, holy fuck. Like, I think the live show for me, it really made it like click. You guys work really well together. The sound is fantastic. It's like all of the stuff that you love. It's some Rush and some Pink Floyd and some just good like stoner shit in there. And I was like, oh, thank you. I feel like I really needed this tonight,
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I feel like, for us as a band, we definitely started by jamming a ton together. So I feel like we're kind of a live band first, and we try to make a sweet record, but, I think the live experience is where we kind of do come to life. So I'm glad it worked on you. It did.
Oh, it did. I was
Nice.
I was fucking blown away. And obviously Legalized Lex, I think overall went really well, and there were a lot of really, really good bands there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Braun
it was
put
super
together a
fun.
great fest. I mean, we've been buddies with the Crop guys for a little bit here, and when he hit us up about the fest and told us the other bands playing, we were in immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a really stacked bill. I mean, Fairy Ring, Blessed Black, and I'm sure you guys caught it, but they had a wedding going right across the street.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Yes.
I
We
think
were
they sent someone over to ask us if we could like turn it down or like
Mhm.
hold or something. I was like, man, I
Yeah.
feel for you guys, I do, but it is a stoner festival on 420, so
Yeah.
like it kind of is what it is at that point,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that bar is known as, like a live music venue. So
Yeah.
like
They
it
kind of
sucks
picked the wrong day to do that.
that's the truth. And did you guys catch that first band Period Sex at all?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
believe I caught them a little bit, yeah.
I was like, oh, I hope they're giving vows right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, fuck.
Probably were, man. I mean, at that point, I think it would have been best for them to lean into it, just recognize that we are now having a stoner rock wedding.
They
Yeah.
were getting married on 420 anyway.
They
Like, I
probably
mean,
were,
come on. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like they got to just come on over at that point. Be like,
Yeah.
man, listen, we'll talk to Braun. We'll cut
Yeah.
you guys a deal at the door. We get your whole wedding party in here, man. One big party. Let's
One
get
big
it.
party. Well, and they didn't even have to pay for live music. Oh my gosh.
Right?
Like,
They had free entertainment.
right.
Frankly, they should be paying us. So
Absolutely. I'm gonna find him and go charge him and tell Braun I got him some extra cash.
Yeah.
So when you guys, I think you started what, like 10-ish years ago?
Thereabouts, yeah. So January 2025 will actually be 10 years of our first EP. So 2015. But Tom and I had been jamming since college. Like we met in about 2009 and we were in other bands and ended up just kind of forming this project as a goof. And we were writing about our Dungeons and Dragons campaigns, and the other serious bands fell apart. And this is what we decided to do. We got together once a year and played a 420 show under the name Skulldozer, spelled SKLDZR. And yeah, as we kind of move forward, we rebranded as Howling Giant, met Seabass down here in Nashville, and you saw us with our fourth member James, who recently joined the band as well, who wasn't able to make it here tonight, but he sends his regards.
Hi,
Mhm.
James. Um, So, and you guys are based in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yes,
Good
sir.
Good old Nash Vegas. Man, that place has changed a lot.
It
I
really
mean,
has, man.
ever since we got here, when'd you get here, Seabass? Like,
I got here in 2011 is when I
yeah.
got here.
Hmm.
And honestly, half the places downtown I don't even recognize anymore. So just changes like that, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. I left. I lived in Brentwood for a bit, and I left in 2000 or 2001. And I obviously like it. I'm in Louisville, so I go back quite often for shows and what have you. And I like every time I go back, I'm like, Jesus, like what the hell? I don't remember this at all.
Yeah.
It's a weird town, but it's a cool town. It's grown a ton. We don't play a lot of shows here, but we've always kind of said that it's a good town to be located from as a band. It's easy to tour, like get to the Midwest pretty quick. Easy to kind of pop over to like the East Coast. As far as like finding different touring markets, it's a pretty good city for that. As far as like just surviving and being able to afford it, you're kind of just like holding on to whatever's like anchored down near you, just like brace yourself, because it's been crazy for sure.
Yeah,
But I would say it's been good for us overall.
right on. I think a lot of you're right. There's a lot of accessibility to the Midwest, to the South, right? You guys aren't far.
So like
Uh,
we could do like a quick like Texas run even if we wanted to. It would be a long drive to get there, but like maybe around 8 hours. We could do like a show to get down there.
That's
And
how
then
we
there's so
started our
much you
touring,
can kind of
really. Yeah.
do. So it's like we can do, Texas, or if we wanted to like pop up, Chicago's a big hub for us. So being able to tour kind of northwards towards Chicago is great. It's all kind of in that region. So I think that unlocked a lot of the early touring life for us. It would be tough if we were located, in Maine or something like that. It's like
oh
how do you
yeah,
tour if you're a band from like such a locked in region?
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Uh,
mean, Florida's another kind of weird one. People like I I help bands kind of book here and there and do some like consulting with young bands. And whenever I have somebody from Florida or something like that, it's just like you got to just travel a bit so you can eventually get out of there because there's only one direction to go. So we kind of chose Nashville as Tom and I were leaving school. We had some friends coming down here because it was cheap to live here and we had more options to tour. And now we just have options to tour. It's no longer cheap here. So
Go tour, go tour,
that's right.
go
Yeah.
tour. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that's that's one thing. Like when I was there, obviously it was a lot cheaper than like I think our apartment in Brentwood overlooked the Nashville skyline. Actually, I know it did. Right, you got on our balcony, it overlooks the Nashville skyline, and I think we paid together $1,000 a month.
Jeez.
That was
Wow.
in
Oh wow.
in 2000 though. When was that you were in
Yeah,
Brentwood?
that was between 97 and like 2000.
That's still pretty expensive for 2000 though. I feel like when we moved down, man, I found some like the first house that we had a practice room in. I think I was paying like $500 a month. And that was sick. That was a good situation for us at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it
No
was
way
not a
that would
good
fly now.
situation for the neighbors. Like the practice room was really just like the dining room that Tom and his roommates put like a false wall up to kind of close it off. And it was very loud. Nothing was really soundproofed, but we figured it out. No one really complained except for your roommates. We were like, this is just how we have to practice. So
Yeah. Sorry, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So when you guys start, obviously we're gonna switch because I have really good segues here. Uh, just looking at Glass Future as a whole, it's a really solid like piece of work. I feel like it flows really well together. When you guys started writing it, was it did you have like did you have the idea, hey, we're gonna kind of go this direction, or uh, was it like we're just gonna let whatever happen happen?
I think that when we are writing a record, the beginning phase is to just write some riffs and some songs that feel cool. And we're not super worried about the identity of the record yet. I mean, it depends. There are different situations. In the past, we've done ones where we had a clear concept of a storyline. And so to match the story we were trying to tell, we would write music to reflect that mood. For this one, though, I think it was just like writing some songs we thought were cool and then listening back to them and saying, like, what are these songs about and which songs do we want to include on the record? So
Yeah.
the first attempt, I think, was just almost a scatter shot, just make some stuff. And
Yeah,
then once you
this
have some material, it's easier to take a look and see, like, what is the flavor here, you know?
Mhm.
yeah. Leading up to Glass Future, everything was highly conceptual. So like we did Black Hole Space Wizard part 1 and 2 EPs. So, you know, 2 concept EPs. The Space Between Worlds, when Tom and I started to write that, and that's when Seabass joined the band and came in, we had an idea of where this was, where it all was going. We did the split with Sergeant Thunderhoof about Masamune and Muramasa, Japanese swordsmiths. So like everything was conceptually planned ahead, where this one was, we just kind of wanted to get away from that a little bit. So we wrote like 18 songs, and then you know, the ones that are on there are the ones that made the cut. So there's a bunch, you know, sitting back there, and we kind of molded the record after the fact a lot more than we were used to.
Right on. So that's cool. I like that you guys have done it kind of both ways, right? Okay, we're gonna move in this like concept direction, and then hey, we're gonna do like a scatter shot and just kind of see what works and put it together. Did you guys, so obviously your songs go, you've got some faster songs, and I think in the middle, right, it takes kind of a break and then it picks back up and then it slows down with There's Time Now, which is, I just, I fucking love that song. I can't get over it. Um, was
Oh, yeah.
was you know, when you guys were doing the layout for the songs, was it like, okay, we're really like pushing along here. Let's kind of give a break here in the middle, and then we'll pick it up and finish the marathon.
Yeah, well, we try to find a vibe within the album because we want people to be able to sit down and listen to a record in full and not get
Burnt
you
out
know,
or bored.
tired or burnt out or whatever. Sometimes if it's always just like if the entire album is just too, like just fast, heavy, like really just banger songs, which is great, but sometimes that can be a little bit too much on a listener. So we try to even it out a little bit with having some lighter stuff in there, and that also kind of lets us play with other sounds that is different for us rather than something that's just like super heavy and distorted.
The
Yeah.
the other thought really is that we're very lucky in the scene and in general that vinyl as a medium is kind of really on the upswing. So when we are making this record, we are thinking about what side A and side B is going to like be like, and what that flow is like for the record. Again, like Seabass was saying, like something so it's not too fatiguing. So we're not just thrashing for a half of a record and then it's slow. Just a natural progression. So there's just variety, you know.
Yeah. It's a really good way to lay out a record, right? Because it, it is hard, especially now, and like with short attention spans. People are like, okay, 2 songs in, cool. I want to listen to something else, or whatever that is. So the way you guys mix it up, and your sound particularly, right? There are so many elements coming into it. I think it really it lends to the listener being active with it, like, oh shit, like that bass line is really good. And I like the way the guitars are really coming together here. And
I think that there are a few ways to look at making a record, and there's the pop approach, which would be to like pick your 4 potential like radio singles and load them on the front half. And the hope is that those short attention spans just grab on to one of those. And then it's almost like the back half truly is kind of like a throwaway, like whatever songs they have left just to fill out the record. I think what we try to do is look at a record like this, like a piece, like a single piece of art. Yes, it's a collection of these songs, but like Glass Future should kind of be viewed as like one piece, you know? And if you can pick like the right album flow, I think even with a short attention span, people are going to want to like listen to what's coming next. And I also think that even with like a short attention span, I don't think someone would like, for example, start watching a movie and if they're into the first like 20 minutes, I don't think they're just going to bail. It's like if they're
Right.
hooked, they're going to listen to it for the full piece of art that that movie is. I almost hope to have that kind of cinematic approach with a record where it's like we will hit it hard and heavy with this record, but if the flow is right, you're going to stay for the ride. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's I think that's what we were trying to do with it, and generally speaking, that's what we try to do with a record.
But with Glass Future, I feel like you guys really nailed it with that. I'm I always say I'm older, right? I'm pushing 50 at this point. So I grew up in a time where, like you're saying, like the whole album is a piece of art. So when you got it, you didn't just listen to a song or two off of it. You listened to it from start to finish, right?
Mhm.
Like music really came out, it grabbed you, it took you on a ride wherever that journey was, right?
It's
And
interesting how like in the 90s I felt like there were a lot of records that were sometimes like too long though. Like the flow wasn't good, but it was super long. One of the examples, it actually probably was like the early 2000s really, but I know there's some Devin Townsend work. I love Devin Townsend, but he has like a couple records I think that were like 90 minutes plus, and it's almost this maximalist like make a record as huge as you can. And I think there's a sweet spot, you know. It's like it doesn't have to be long, it just has to feel like connected from start to finish, you know.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, and I think that's what a lot of artists are a lot of pop artists I feel like are missing out, right? Because there's not a connection through. It's like it's a collection of art, little art pieces, right? This song is this song is that, and there's not a super solid flow all the way through it. Where
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where a lot of people are really driven to the underground or the less popular bands because there's not as much pressure to go out and sell a million copies, right? Like you can sit back and go, okay, this is what we're doing as a whole concept album, concept EP or whatever that is. And it lends to just better music, better live shows, um, in my
Man,
opinion.
I think it's like, you know, obviously I'd love to sell a million records. You know,
Yeah,
that would be dope. But I think the drive maybe isn't to like make money first. It's
right.
like the first thing we're trying to do is make the art. And then almost secondarily, it's like, sure hope people buy this, you know.
Yeah,
Right.
So now I hope we sell a million records.
yeah,
We'll see.
Yeah.
You know, we probably will. No
But it does
guarantee.
all start with the same thing. It's us in a practice room showing each other something that we came up with and we work on it together and make something that we as a collective enjoy, you know? And that's ultimately what it's all about.
yeah.
So to
Absolutely.
find people live, like, like this scene in Louisville, for example, that a lot of different bands have brought together, like Swamp Hawk and Crop and everyone else, is just like, man, it's awesome to find people that are into the stuff that we are doing.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of people that showed up to legalize. Um, Being Braun's first, first like festival he was doing. I expected people to show up, right? Because it's there again, the bill was just stacked from start to finish. Um, but I didn't expect as many people to show up as they did. I
Hmm.
was like, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah, that's what
Uh,
it's all about.
for sure. So it's a solid community in this area.
Hmm.
Um, for you guys, was there a standout band at Legalize where you're like, oh, I didn't expect them to be that good, and they really blew me away.
For me, it was probably Fairy Ring. We've played a show with them before. Yeah, dude. And I'm just really drawn to that kind of style. It's like, man, there is a throwback element to what they do, but they do really bring a lot of like fresh ideas to it. So I think they do a great job of like, man, there's this vintage heavy psych going on, but it is still fresh. It is still like melodic, and they just have a high energy. So for me, I feel like I had a blast watching them.
Yeah. It was good to see She again. Like I feel like their set and they were outside. It was one of the best times that I've seen them. We've played with them a bunch, but like man, they sounded amazing.
Dude, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just they're kind of like chasing different directions with new recordings and stuff like that too. So like there's some melodic vocals starting to get involved a little bit more. It's awesome, man. They're heavy.
Yeah, and
Yes.
I got to piggyback off that. I mean, She was just one of my favorite performances of the weekend. They
Mhm.
absolutely blew me away.
Right on. They were fantastic. It was, it was really hard to keep up with all the bands because it was the way he laid it out was really, really fucking good. So you had the opportunity to go see every band, and you weren't going to miss everything, or you weren't
Mhm.
going to miss anything if that is your intention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fairy Ring, always a fucking great live band. Like those dudes, every time I see him, like especially Alex, dude, with the bass, he's out there fucking kicking and swinging, and
Yeah, man.
you know,
That was some energy. That was really fun to watch.
yeah, those dudes are a lot of fun. She, every time I see them, they really kick ass. Obviously, for me, you guys were the standouts. I didn't expect your live show to be as good as it was, and holy fuck, I'm so grateful for it.
Man, thank you.
Appreciate that.
Like, I hope that doesn't sound like a backhanded like compliment. I was
Good, man.
No, no,
No.
yeah.
It's one of those things where it's like you want to surprise people with the live show. And I think that it's really easy in a world where production has gotten so good in a lot of cases to have the opposite be true,
yeah.
where you like fall in love with a record and you're like, man, they just didn't quite live up to it. And so when you see a band like kicking ass, it's really cool. And I'm glad that, we had that impression on you. So I appreciate you watching and checking that set.
Yeah, I was just blown away. Again, it was just the whole day was fucking phenomenal. Now, like thinking long term for you, I say long term for you all. What artists, or what was the driving force for you starting to play music
Hmm. Like in each
Individually or as a
individually?
band?
individually? Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
I started at a super young age, playing classical guitar. Actually, I think I told my parents when I was like just like a toddler, basically, that I wanted to play guitar, and they had in their mind that was like, okay, we can support you playing guitar, but you have to do it from this like academic route. So we're gonna like kind of push you towards this classical program. So I kind of started there, and then once I got into like middle school and high school, I started joining like just bands with my friends and stuff like that. So I mean, it was kind of a long and winding path that started pretty early, for me anyway.
Yeah, pretty much the same. Like when I was really young, my grandma actually taught piano. So, I dabbled a little bit there, got into middle school and started like in a percussion section for like for concert band and got into drumline. I was in North Carolina at the time. That was like the thing around there. So I was just playing in drumline. And then I had a friend in high school, Miles, that was just an insane shredder guitarist, and he started showing me a lot more metal. And like I picked up a kit. He was like, "You need to learn these songs." So I just like translated what I knew kind of over. And yeah, and then went to college and met Tom. And after we were done progging out and shredding, it's time to write some stoner riffs. So here
Dude,
we
you
are
had a
now.
sick prog career in college, but
That's
no,
right.
what I learned was that like audiences don't really like prog music if you're not Dream Theater or someone else.
Yeah.
yeah.
Maybe we were just bad, but I refuse to admit that. We
Yeah.
were fucking sick, dude. But you look out and there's a lot of like, judgmental audience kind of like, well, he's not the best guitarist I've ever seen, so not gonna buy your t-shirt tonight.
Yeah.
And yeah, I started with music at a very young age. My father, being a heavy metal musician, you know, he taught me guitar and bass and drums and the basics with that. Um, and my parents just kind of raised me on everything like Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, AC/DC. So, those were my middle school and high school years while everyone was listening to pop or pop punk or, whatever kind of metal. I was like the old school guy. But
And you still
yeah,
are the old school guy,
I
Sebastian.
pretty much am. Yeah. Even though I
But
think I'm the youngest in the band. So I'm the old
Well,
school guy though.
yeah.
the youngest in the band with the oldest musical taste.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. Those are all good bands, you know. I mean, that's the shit that I grew up on. Like, I remember when what was it? The like Pink Floyd's The Wall was having like a reinvigoration, and it was all over the radio, and
Mhm.
man, all my friends went fucking nuts over it. And that's about the time everyone was like, dude, we're gonna start taking acid every day and doing all this crazy shit. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, we're gonna
Yeah.
party.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, we all have to party, right? Um, is there a band that again individually, right? Is there a band that you guys have seen that um absolutely blew your mind? Like you saw them and didn't expect, you're like, we're gonna see them, they'll be good, and then they just blew you away.
I feel like there are going to be
Man.
a lot of instances where each of us have that moment, but like one notable moment for me, I think was in college, and it was seeing Elder for the first time play at O'Brien's Pub. Was it O'Brien's? Zach, you were there with
Yeah.
me.
It was O'Brien's.
O'Brien's, and they were a sick band, but at the time, I think we just viewed them as like this is another like Boston band, like almost
Mhm.
like this is a local band. We should check them out. And me and Zach and a couple buddies went to see them in this tiny room, and it was like right when their album Dead Root Stirring, I think, had like just come out or something. Like it was pretty fresh, and they were touring
Yeah.
that album. And it was like us and like six other people in the crowd, and I was just like, dude, my mind is melted right now, dude. It was insane. I was like, what is this, dude? So I was like hooked from that point for life, and I feel like later kind of vindicated to see like, dude, they did blow up and become like something like a household name in this scene.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, these guys kick ass. Like, what are they doing playing O'Brien's right now? You know?
Yeah.
That-
I had a similar feeling when uh this was probably 4, maybe 5 years ago. I saw Primus and Mastodon were coming through Nashville, and obviously I know those names. Um, but they had this band, All Them Witches, opening up for them, and I had no idea who they were. Did not know what to expect. It was just kind of like, it's just going to be an opening band. I don't really care. I don't care
Yeah.
if I miss them or not. They got on stage and just did the same thing, like absolutely blew me away. My jaw was on the floor watching them. And then the fact that they said it was a hometown show for them because they're from Nashville. I was just like, man, what have I been missing out on with these guys? They are absolutely killer.
Right on.
Yeah. And for me, in high school, I was going to see Coheed and Cambria with my buddy and had no clue who was opening up, and heard there was some instrumental band that was going to open up. And for me, like back then, the only thing I knew about instrumental music was like kind of like Steve Vai. And like after a song or two, I kind of lose interest if it's like constant shred. So I was like, this is going to suck, and it was Russian Circles, and they blew
Oh,
my mind. Like they're probably at this point, I've seen them the most out of any other band live. They're so good. Uh, yeah, I was dead wrong. They're so good, and I'm glad I'm wrong, and I'm glad that I've seen them so many times at this point. Does any record they put out, I'm on it immediately.
I just have
Those
a
yeah.
quick question, Zach. Why you gotta do Steve Vai dirty like that?
Yeah.
He's got the Hydra guitar right now, dude. It's
That's
like
right.
3
Has
necks.
lasers.
It
Yeah.
has lasers on. What more can he do to
That's right.
entertain you, bro?
You know who doesn't need lasers? Russian circles.
That's true. But
That's
can you
fair.
imagine if
Right.
they had lasers?
That's right. Well,
Then it wouldn't be Russian circles, it'd be Russian lasers.
Yep.
That's
There
my
you go.
band. I'm dibsing it. I'm calling
Yeah.
it right now.
Oh God. I love you guys. All of those bands that you guys named, fucking phenomenal, right? They all put on tremendous shows. One of my recent favorite memories or gratitudes, I think, for like Elder is playing that Tool tour.
Oh yeah.
Like, fuck yeah, dude. Like,
Awesome. They were like polished, man. I feel like they were pristine on that tour. It was great.
I think
Well,
that's
it's really it was wild for us to see from, you know, being on the road with them and getting to know them personally a little bit, and then seeing them in a arena setting just blow like everybody away. That was honestly one of the most fun things to see, aside from just watching the show and watching the music, was looking at all the people around us who had never heard of Elder before.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're kind of curmudgeons at first. And then towards the end of the set, they're like, oh, wow, this is awesome. So to see like that live conversion, you know, for a fan base is really cool.
that's one of my favorite things about going to a live show with whether it's in an arena where there's a lot of people who aren't familiar with the opener, or even a smaller club. I mean, I saw it last night. I went to see Decapitated because I'm a big death metal guy. And Allegiant was opening the show, and I love those dudes. I've probably been seeing them live for 10 years. But to get there, I don't think there were 10 of us in the crowd that actually knew them. But by the time they played 6 songs, and by the time they got off stage, the entire crowd was fucking jamming out and loving it. And
Yeah.
I feel like they sold more merch than all the rest of the bands combined. And I was like, hell yeah, dude, for an opener, that's freaking awesome.
That's
sick.
what you want, man.
Yeah.
So Nick from Elder, are you guys familiar with Fire Down Below?
Yeah. Met them a few times. Well, hung with them a few times in Europe.
Yeah.
Ripple band. Yeah, good dudes.
Yep. Super good dudes. That the last album they had, fucking phenomenal. Low Desert Surf Club. Now, I think Nick from Elder produced
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
he did.
Nice connection there.
Yeah, totally.
Now, what are you guys listening to right now?
Oh, I'm always listening to, and these guys will attest to it, I'm always listening to a lot of Nickelback.
Seabass he's looking for the hits and only the radio rock hits,
Somebody's got to do it, I picked the short straw, but for me, I'm fine with that, No, I've been listening to oh man, so much stuff. I've been listening to some Hum recently. Been checking them out a little bit more. My go-to favorites are probably just AC/DC, Iron Maiden. I again can't I can't help it. I go for the hits, but
Okay.
For me, since we got off tour, we did a tour with The Obsessed and Gozu. I've been kind of going through the rest of Gozu's discography. This past week, I've been listening to a lot of Heavy Temple. That's mostly because Tom and I are gonna hop on and play a set with them this Saturday in Nashville. But yeah, I've been cycling their set pretty much all week, so I make sure I know all the tunes. But yeah, the Gozu stuff, and then I feel like when I'm doing a lot of emails or whatever random computer work, I try to look for instrumental stuff. But one that I always fall to is Nick's solo project, Delving. So I just kind of go through that record quite a bit.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, Zach said it, but I think it's just because I've had to learn all of the Heavy Temple tracks because we're playing that show with him. I've been listening to him a ton, and it's like, dude, their new record is out now, right? They just dropped that and it's released.
Yeah,
or
yeah, a
it's-
couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's so good, man. I mean, I know
Mhm.
we heard them play that on tour, but it's like, it's a great record, man. And
Yeah.
it's cool to try and learn it, but it is also like, all right, this is some weird shit, but in a cool way. I'm like, what's happening here? Trying to
R-
dissect all the guitar parts and be like,
Right, you
what's
hear it every
happening?
night on the road, and same thing with the Gozu stuff. You hear it every night, but like to then listen to the album version and like dig in is like
There's some
totally
intricate,
different. Yeah,
difficult, but very cool stuff happening. So it's been
yeah.
sweet to dive into that. Um, I've also been listening to this band for the last like 2 years a ton, and I've been listening to them a lot this last week. They're called Hal or Hall. It's Haal is how it's spelled. They're a band from I think Johnson City, or maybe Knoxville, something like that. So they're another Tennessee band. Very like 90s kind of inspired stuff, but just really, really sick. I think their record was mixed by Kurt Ballou.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know if he did like production stuff on it or if he just was their recording engineer and their mixing engineer. I think
We're
he was
playing with
both.
them in Horseburner in June in
Dude,
Johnson City. So
I'm
yeah.
kind of going through being like, man, I should try to learn some of these vocals. Maybe I can convince Travis, the front man, to let me get up there, do some
Yeah.
harmonies. This is Tom's like guest spot.
Adventure.
Era.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that Hal
Dude,
out.
So
Like,
Hal and their record, Everything Is Right Now. I think that's what it is.
okay,
Yeah.
It's sick, dude. It's whatever the latest one is, man. It's awesome. Check it out.
all right, I'll dig into that for sure. So that tour with the Obsessed, how did they sound as a 4-piece?
Dude, they slayed it every single night. It sounded so good.
Yeah,
Um,
their tones, like, dude, Jason is an incredible guitarist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
There was a night in New Orleans where Jimmy Bauer came out to watch the show, and he was
Brought out
gigging.
the Bauer power.
He brought out the Bauer power, and Jason just like on the fly kind of plugged that in. And dude, it sounded great, man. Like that pedal on its own, I was watching some clips and I was like, I don't know if I'm into it. But the way Jason used it as like a boost in the front end, him and Wino's tone were just like massive, dude. It was fantastic. So he sounded great before then, but I was like, dude, the Bauer power is a sweet little extra spice,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, with the addition of Jason in it, the Obsessed coming to a 4-piece, that sound has really filled out, and it's
Man,
like
and Jason does like he puts so much like love and care into his role. Like talking
mhm.
to him about the material, he wrote out all of the notation for the guitar parts for Jug Full of Sun and was selling that on the road. So it's like, I mean, he's done his homework when it comes to Wino and his approach to playing guitar.
yeah.
So I mean, it's not like they just found some guy who just like kind of hacked his way through the parts like what I'm doing with Heavy Temple stuff right now. You know? No,
But
he brings a lot to the table, man, and they're awesome sounding.
kind of reminds you of like the Steve Vai, Frank Zappa connection, and
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
that happened too, right? I think Jason fits really well with the band and that fucking sound. Just like you were saying, the sound is just so wow,
Mhm.
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
together they fucking crush it. I'm bummed I missed that tour. I'm like, fuck. Like next time I have to make it a priority to get to a show.
Yeah, man, they were tight as hell, and their drummer Brian was just incredibly nice. I mean, they were all incredibly nice. Their drummer Brian was he's such a steady drummer, and he really put a lot of hard work into the tour. And then on top of that, freaking wino every night, man. I mean, he killed it. He didn't have a bad show. He was really, really doing good.
Right on.
You're
So
gonna name drop everybody except Chris Seabass, the bass player. Come
Chris is
on,
cool.
give the man some love.
Chris was super great. I loved him.
and Chris. and well, shit.
Classic bass player treatment. Anyway, Seabass,
Yeah.
we'll mute him for the rest of the conversation here.
Wow.
He's like, oh shit, damn bass player treatment.
All right, that's it for me, guys. I'll see you later.
I'll see ya. I'm out. You guys, you guys collectively, you guys have a really full sound. Like it is, especially in a live environment, it's all encompassing. What do you attribute that to?
Probably the amps. No, I don't know.
I hit the
Yeah.
drums really hard.
Well, Zach's hitting his drums with sticks, and that's creating a lot of sound on the stage. Dude, but no, all goofs aside, though, I think that we try to share the space with each other in a way that can kind of create like a larger kind of stereo image. So like between me and James on guitar, we will play things even when we're playing in unison. We're trying to like create tones that complement each other instead of perfectly match, so that when we do play together, it creates kind of an extra level of thickness. That's not just like volume, but the actual like tones that we choose, being able to do something that kind of like locks in, I think helps kind of create that wall. A lot of it's also just the way we wrote the music, the arrangements of like, a lot of it is just kind of, I don't want to say wall of sound, but it's a lot happening. It's either a lot of notes constantly happening, or it's like thick, kind of like spread voiced power chords that just kind of, make a big, big wall of sound. That and the
Yep.
amps, and that Zach's hitting it with his drums with the sticks.
Hitting the drums with the
Yep.
sticks.
Combination.
All those things, they'll do it. And that's, for me, just as a fan of music, one of my favorite things is going to a show and having that sound really encompass the room. I feel like that in those moments you feel the vibrations, and every song takes you on a journey. It's like, fuck, that's what makes a really good, obviously what makes a really good live band, someone that can take you out of whatever you have going on outside, forget all the world, and just enjoy the ride.
Yep. And just kind of be enveloped in the sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's kind of what we aim to do. I think that while each of us kind of have our shining moments throughout some of these songs, overall, when we play live and when we play on the record, really, we are just aiming to make a good song and make a sort of this thick wall of sound that you just feel in your chest.
Yeah, you definitely feel it in your chest. I love it. So over the next year, what do you guys as a band have going on and hope to really happen for you?
So we're going out with our friends Horseburner for their album release weekend in June. We're playing Magfest up in Louisville in July, and there might be some dates around that. And then we're prepping to go out with Mars Red Sky for basically all of September. Not quite sure what's happening in the fall. We're trying to plot a return to Europe. If it doesn't happen this year, it'll probably be next spring. And between all that, we're trying to write another record.
All
So
right.
just trying to keep on top of it and get more new music out there as quick as we can.
That's quick, because it's 24. If you guys are writing now, how long do you think that'll take?
Oh, I mean, from the moment we actually turn in a fully mixed and mastered record, it still could be 6 to 9 months till it actually comes out. So like,
I think the
I should
hope
say like
is-
nothing's like written really yet. We just
Sure.
have some ideas for what we'd like to do.
Just
I
starting
think
the
the hope is
process.
to get on like a 2-year cycle.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, we want to drop a record, and then like 2 years later, we want another one to come out. And
Yeah.
to make that happen, it's, you'd be surprised how early you kind of have to start. There's almost no rest time for a lot of these bands that have a good rhythm when it comes to like their releases coming out. Um, we have some songs right now that I'm really stoked on already. So it's like trying to write more, almost to do the same kind of approach we did with Glass Future. I think that was a good method where I would like to continue that, where maybe we try to overwrite if we can get like 15 different ideas or so and then choose the 10 best kind of showings. I think that's what I'd like to do. But what that probably means is we're writing right now, and when it comes to the fall, hopefully we have an idea when we can start tracking like the instrumental side. That's probably the best schedule wise for that 2-year cycle.
Right on. So are you guys do you guys have a studio that you like to record at, producer, all that good stuff?
For a while, we were just kind of recording out of necessity. We were doing stuff at my old house where we rehearsed. My wife and I moved a couple of years ago, and we soundproofed our garage into a nice jam space, which we do. We stream on Twitch and stuff as a full band, and we did some tracking there. These days, though, oh, sorry, had a power flicker. Am I still there?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, cool. But yeah, these days we've just been trying to find a studio just with friends wherever we can to kind of hole up for a week or so. So we went to the guy who does keys on our records, Drew. He lives out in Texas, and we did a week or so with him, just kind of doing some writing. We've been talking about possibly working with Scary from Black Tusk. He's got a spot in Savannah. So yeah, just finding a spot to kind of have a different vibe every time that we track something new.
We lost Tom.
That must have been the power flicker. He's like 2 minutes from my house.
Oh yeah. Is it storming there?
Yeah, pretty gnarly.
Yeah, it's been raining here kind of off and on all day, and I think we had some bad weather overnight, but
Yeah, it's supposed to be some pretty bad storms tonight, I think.
well, hopefully everything's good for all of you guys.
Yeah, looking all right so far. Just some bad thunder and lightning. I think there was a tornado a little south of us just very recently, so I was just keeping an eye on that to make sure we didn't
Oh,
need
yeah.
to run away and cut the interview short. But looks
Yeah.
like we're clear.
No duck and cover right now.
Yeah.
Right on. So do you guys, is there a club that you guys like playing, or like a city that you prefer playing over other places?
There are a couple clubs that well, Zach, you can go first.
Yeah, I mean, we like Tom was kind of talking about where we started just with the weekend tours and stuff, kind of going to Chicago and back. Like, we love going to Chicago anytime we can. Like, we're going through. And recently, actually, in Milwaukee, we played X-Ray Arcade up there with Elder, and then we came back, and like the same crowd was there. Like, we were the opener at 8 o'clock, and that same crowd was there for us for our headline show. And that almost never happens. You get some people coming back when you're on your own headline tour, but like, this was insane. We were like, wow, okay, we're coming back here all the time whenever there's a chance. Reggie's 42nd Street Tavern in Wilmington, North Carolina. It's an awesome spot. It's that's where Dixie from Weed Eater, that's his neighborhood bar. He hangs out. So we always try to swing on through there. And yeah, I mean, we find new places every time we go on a tour, and we're just like, wow, we just got to come back here. I don't know. What do you think, Seabass?
The other one, one that comes to mind right now is High Dive when we hit Denver.
Yeah, Denver.
We've played a few different venues in Denver, but we've played High Dive a couple times, and it's a dive bar with with a pretty good size to it. And the last time we played with the Obsessed, I mean, that place was packed out.
Yeah, that was great. Always good shows in Denver too. Yeah, there are just certain cities that always really click for us. And then there are others that we've had to like hit again and again and again, as you have to. But like, we've lately seen the results a lot more. Like, I don't know what it is, but some spots you just got to go once and there's already a scene that's happening. They hear you and they go, great, we'll see you every time you're through. And sometimes you got to hit it like 8 times before you ever,
kind of
see
break
some
through a little
results.
bit.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
I think part of that is attested to like a lot of people like here. I don't feel like a lot of people want to see the opener, right? Like they just want to go and catch maybe the headliner and direct support. But the opener, they're like, like I had that conversation last night. Someone's like, yeah, I'm gonna miss the opener. I'm like, dude, don't miss them. They're phenomenal. You're gonna be blown away. Like, don't ever miss an opener because you don't
Yeah.
know what you're gonna see. You
Totally.
know? And they showed up, caught the opener, and as soon as Allegiant got off stage, he looks at me and he goes, wow.
Yeah.
Right. This is why you don't miss an opener, dude.
Yeah.
But
I think that there are a lot of people in our scene specifically that are so very devoted to the bands in this scene that they'll make a point to be like, I'm going to show up for every single band, you know?
Yeah.
And there's always going to be those other people too that are just kind of like, maybe they don't know and they're like, oh, I'm just going to go see the headliner, which is fine. But there are definitely a lot of people in this scene that are like, I love this band, this band, this band, and they're all on the bill, and I'm just going to go see them, and it's going to be awesome.
Or to have people like you who are just like letting others know, like, hey, you don't miss this. Like, seriously. Yeah. That's always
important.
so helpful. Yeah.
yeah, and I'll be honest, I didn't realize you guys are playing the Magbar Festival in July.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, okay, I can't fucking miss that now.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's been a while since we've been back to Magbar, but we love it there, man. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great.
That's a great little dive bar.
We
I
love
feel-
going through. Yeah. Like
Yeah.
that's another spot that we hit a lot. I mean, it's only 2.5, 3 hours from here. So that was a spot like talking about on the way to Chicago. It would always be like Louisville, Indianapolis, Chicago. Like those were the weekend runs,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all super close, right? 2.5
Yep.
hours, 2 hours, 2.5,
Yeah.
3 hours, whatever.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's go
The
ahead.
tough part is when you get to the you expand a little bit more and you get to the Southwest, and then it's like, oh, this next city is 9 hours away.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You're like, we're gonna do a run in Texas. Oh shit, it's 12 hours to the next town.
Yeah.
Damn. It is. And it's funny how the different parts of the country are like that too, right?
Mhm.
Because you get up in the Northeast and it's the same thing, right? Couple hours to the next town and you're,
Mhm.
it's super easy. Like Northeast, Midwest, I feel is pretty comparable, but
Yeah.
man,
Yeah, usually once we get to the Northeast, when we're on that section of a tour, it's I mean, we'll be having a great time for the entire tour, but when we hit the Northeast, we're like, okay, this is amazing because we actually get to sleep in a little bit.
Yeah.
We might have a day off or something.
yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of those shorter drives, and you don't have to get off stage and go, okay, we're leaving immediately to,
Exactly.
at least make half the trip tonight.
Yeah.
Don't miss those days at all. So lined out, I think we've talked about tours up to like fall. In total, how many days are you guys going to be on the road between now and then?
Oh man. There are 4 dates with Horse Burner. There's probably 4 or 5 around Mag Fest, and then there's probably somewhere between, I think probably 23, 24 shows with Mars Red Sky, I think. We don't have too much else plotted outside of that currently. Like I said, just kind of seeing what happens for the fall right now. We've been hitting it pretty hard since the record came out last October. Because I mean, leading up was our first European tour. We did dates at home, this long run with the Obsessed. So really just making sure we have enough time to be home and write some new music is really the focus right now. Once we kind of finish this touring summer.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I mean, you're still looking at 30-ish days on the road,
Yeah.
know, which is, I mean, shit for any band. That's a lot of time to spend on the road,
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, I think the total this year will be a little less than what we did last year, like ending up being like, 60, 70 dates this year, but which is wild because sometimes you hear, like, we've got friends who are hired guns for bands around here in Nashville, and it's just like when they talk about doing like 150 dates a year, it's funny, they're not on the road that whole time. They're doing the Nashville model where they leave, but every weekend they're gone, and then they come home for a couple days, and then they're gone the next weekend. Like, that's wild.
Crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Mhm.
When I left, I'm sure it's a lot different now, but when I left Nashville, there was an article that came out. It said there were 32 or 33,000 bands in the Nashville city limits alone.
Good Lord.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Checks out. They might share the same 5 members, but
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and the population there has really exploded.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's blown up, man. It's it changed 5 years since I got down here, and then it changed 5 years after that, and then I'm sure it's going to change 5 years after that. So it's just like it's constantly evolving here, and unfortunately, kind of becoming a more tourist based city, but it's still a place that's like really good for us to be based out of.
Yeah, it is, right? Accessibility.
Mhm.
I think that's a big thing. That's one thing I like about Louisville is a couple hours to almost anywhere you want to go within the Midwest, right? There 4 hours to Chicago, 5 to Detroit, 2 to Indianapolis, hour to Lexington, 2.5 to Nashville, 4 to St. Louis.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's great. My wife's like, I want her to move to Florida because I'm so tired. I'm just tired of winter. She's like, well, what are you going to do for shows? Well, I'm going to have to make a lot of money because I'm going to have to fly a lot.
Yeah.
She's like, oh shit. All right. So I'm gonna just say I greatly appreciate you guys coming to hang out and bullshit with me tonight. I really look forward to seeing you guys live again. I'm dumbfounded that you're writing already, and I'm excited for that next album.
Awesome.
So I greatly appreciate it. And to you too, Tom, although you're not here.
Yeah. Pour one out for Tom who lost power.
Yep.
For sure. So keep doing what you're doing, and I'll see you guys on the road.
Nice.
All right,
Thank
man.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys. See ya.
All right. See you later.